Hello humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. I don't know when you're going to see this video. I have no idea. It's probably going to be members only first, and then you guys are going to see it. Regardless, guys, I really wanted to talk to you about this whole pre-order mania that we have going on in the retro community. I rarely get time to sit down and talk with everybody and really lay down some concepts here. And I was doubting about making this video because when I make this video, it's also a how-to do this grift. Right? But it's also informational. Maybe you want to do a pre-order somewhere along the line. You don't want to end up in this channel. Maybe you want to do things right. Right? So what I want to do here is tell you where the money goes, why there's always the same type of problems in these pre-order projects. Not all of them. Okay, not all of them. I'm not saying everybody's like this, but when things go south, right? These are the reasons why they go south in the pre-order model. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to read some notes that I have, that I've been doing over the past few weeks, when we're talking about this stuff, and write it out and break it down for you. This is an overview, guys. You'd be surprised in our business, in the business that I am in right now, how many times people call us after they purchase the business. Right? And let me tell you, if you do an audit on the business before you purchase it, not the one that the salesperson gives you, okay? Because the salesperson just wants to sell. That's their motivation. They don't care if the business is doing great or not. They want their commission, right? They want you again as a customer, but usually when you're buying businesses, it's not like a repeat business that you're buying all the time. Not consistently. You want, salespeople try to do their job, but they're not auditors. That's not their purpose. And the onus is on you to make sure that you're buying a good product, that you're buying a good business. But many of the times people call us after they've already bought it, right? Like when they're ready to sue somebody, they want to know exactly what was misrepresented. They have some sort of idea, but they don't. When they could have spent, typically, I work with a team, but I would say, okay, my costs, okay, just what I do, right? It's about $1,000 a day, okay? And usually it takes me up to 3 days, depending on the size of the facility, but 3 days I'll get a good handle on what's going inside the business and what the priorities are, which is what this video is about. And those $3,000 could save them 20 grand, right? Because they don't know what they're overpaying for. That's why you pay. That's part of the cost, right? And it could keep you away from losing. It's not so much what you're paying me to get a discount. You're paying me as insurance so you don't buy some crappy business that is never going to make you any money, or that has some foundational problems that you're not able to fix in the future. And I'm just talking in generalities here, and that's the way I'm going to do it for the video, so you guys can get a better layperson's understanding of what the problem in this business model is. And it really isn't about anybody being, how would I say, it is about being incompetent, but it's the shifting priorities of the business, right? So when you analyze this project, a project like this, is where does the money go? On paper, budgets include everything, right? Tooling, licensing, but what rarely customers get to see, or you create, getting the pre-order get to see, is internal allocation, which is really the most important thing, right? It gave me this money. How are you gonna, cut out the pie? Now, when you look at these projects, these people always have aspirational salaries. And a perfect example would be Tommy Tallarico. All our people make 6 figures. Would that be the reality in an open market, right? These people tend to pay themselves the toppest, highest wage, and sometimes even beyond what normally would be expected in a business. That's some of the things that I look at, like what's this guy's salary, and then I look at the open market and I compare. Wait a minute, this guy's getting paid $150,000 when he should, at best, should be making 80, 90. So you're overpaying. Why? What is it that you're getting off this guy? Is he doing 2 people's jobs? Remember, when it comes to your labor or my labor, the reason I get paid what I get paid is because I make more money for the company than they pay me, right? If they lose money on what I do, they wouldn't pay me. The same thing for you. The reason you work at where you work at is because your labor produces more money than when it costs them to hire you. It's that simple. But the problem with these kind of projects when it comes to pre-orders is that once those salaries are locked in, the priorities shift. The project exists to sustain the team, right? The reason for the project is to give people salaries. The product justifies the payroll. And the incentive becomes to finish something as late as needed because you want to keep on getting paid. Like Juanito, 4 years, $150,000. That's the priority, to stretch it out as much as possible at the lowest quality acceptable, which is not the pitch that they give you in the beginning. In the beginning, when they're trying to sell you something, it's, we're going to do this is the best, this is the best, this is the best. But eventually quality declines because that's not the priority. The early ambition gives way to reality, right? They're always ambition in the beginnings of a project. But as the project goes along, funds decline, timelines slip, right? Cost rises. You've seen that in every project. And quality becomes adjustable. Materials are downgraded. They promise you, so many games at the beginning, and then they adjust. We're going to have the whole collection here. Well, it's going to be reduced, and we couldn't do this, that, and the other, right? So that quality knob is adjustable to make up for the cost of the salaries that still remain the same, and that's why features disappear. Now, why delays? Why do you always see delays in these type of projects? Because delays preserve payroll. The longer that project is open, right, the longer you're going to have payroll. And, delays postpone accountability. Delays keep the cash flow alive, which is what you really want if you're an employee there, right? From a business standpoint, delay is safer than speed. It keeps you alive for longer. If you want to apply this to arcade cabinets, whatever arcade cabinet you're talking about, these are physical products that are made with known cost, right? That they're not a mystery to the community that's buying them. It's not an experimental technology. You have, proven methods that have worked over time. They attract pre-orders because the nostalgia lowers scrutiny. And that's true for every video game product. That nostalgia really makes you turn a blind eye to anything else. It's not like you're getting a fence built in your front yard where you're, always looking at it, right? You always have that supervision. And the real cost that you have to look at here is the real cost is structure. At scale, arcade cabinets are inexpensive to manufacture at scale. Okay, margins, they fund the salaries, the marketing, the overhead, and the product, funds the company, right? But why do these products eventually disappoint you? By the time they deliver, the budget's tighten, corners get cut, the product ship, but the vision does not, right? The early vision stays with you of what you ordered, but when they eventually ship, maybe it's not, what they promised. And the only leverage that you have as a customer, is those threatening a refund, right? Refunds are not punishments. They are your only leverage. When proof is missing that these items are being made, the only one that patience helps is the company, right? Because they get to extend their lifetime, but it's not convenient for the customer. Refund resistance from the vendor, whoever's making the cabinet, preserves their cash flow. That's why they do it. But sometimes refunds are reasonable, right? You shouldn't just hold them to refunds all the time just to, try to bug them all the time if they're doing a reasonable job, right? If they're within line, but you're just impatient, that's one thing. But when are refunds reasonable, right? When you have repeated misdates, right? When the expectations are shifting, when there's no physical proof, of them existing when there's no physical proof of documentation for manufacturing, for example, at that time, requesting a refund is responsible, or at least holding them to a deeper proof of manufacturing, whatever that may be, as we talked before. The core truth of this whole entire thing is that pre-orders shift the risk onto customers. Whenever you're making a business, right, and when you're talking about investment, right, investing, as opposed to, the number one rule in business, if you're doing the business, is always be on time. If you're investing, is don't lose money, right? If I'm going to invest in a business, if I'm going to make a business and I say, okay, I want to create my own arcade company, okay, I'm going to take, I don't know, whatever it is, let me take 100,000 out of my 401k to start this brand new project. I'm going to buy, some machines here. I'm going to get a little shop going, and I'm going to do all this. All the risk is mine, right? I'm taking those 100K out. I'm throwing out to this company, hoping that it will outperform my 401k. And if it doesn't, I'm SOL. But if I don't take that, if I don't take a loan from my house, if I don't get a loan from the bank, and I take pre-orders, I ship that liability, I put it on the customer. I take no risk. Imagine starting a business with zero risk. You see that all the time on promotions, right? That's why I made the video, the fast talker, like, hey, I got this program, pre-orders. Eh? That's exactly what it is, right? I'm shifting the risk completely to the customer. I can, spend whatever on this factory that I'm creating. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I tried, right? I still keep my high salary that I factored in for running this company, which, in my case would be high, but most of the time it wouldn't be that high, right? Whoever's running the project, works at an insurance company, or they work at, I don't know, a hardware store or something, they just have a regular job, right? And all of a sudden they want to run this company, and all of a sudden their salary jumps to 150K, or, whatever it is. And you bring over your buddies, and they're working now, but they're your buddies, so they don't work as hard. And it could turn into a complete crap show. But all the risk is taken by those pre-order people, the people that got the pre-orders. It's not on me anymore. So if it doesn't work out, I'm not as brokenhearted. So understanding these changing expectations really is the key to discern whether or not you're involved in a good project or not. And these are the questions that you should be asking yourself, not only when you're purchasing pre-orders, but if you're going to invest in a business. That's before you spend $1, you do your due diligence. Either if you don't have the qualifications to do it, you can hire a person like me. We'll go in there, find all the skeletons, right? And then you can assess risk. You can either at that time decide, hey, your company isn't worth $1 million. It really is worth only 650, right? So I will pay you the 650 under these conditions. You just save yourself a bunch of money, right? Because a lot of times what people do is they make these promises about what the company could sell. And think about it this way: why would you sell something that runs itself? You wouldn't, right? 9 times out of 10 times when we go, everything's kosher. The people doing the acquisition are pretty professional. They just want a third person to verify. But there are times when we run into things where it's like, we just saved you a bunch of money. And that's what you should do. Keep your eye out. These are hopefully I was able to explain here real quick why, these changing expectations affect the business of the pre-order, right? There's times out there where true fans are making these games, and they really are just about that, right? And you'll see it when they put out products. They'll say, this is what I'm promising, this is what I'm charging, and this is when I'll deliver it. That's the person that you want to deal with, right? It doesn't matter if it's a pre-order for a video game or whatever product. And they're transparent, right? They're transparent. If you're, putting in 500, 600, 700, you better have a clear vision of where that money's going to, right? The questions to ask, okay, what percentage of what you're raising goes into salaries? the screen that you're seeing, the flow chart that you're seeing up there, is typically what happens. 70% goes to salaries, right? That's part of the production. Oh, I got to pay this, I got to pay that, I got to pay the other. And 30% goes actually to your product, right? But when they promise you at first, they say, okay, this is what we're going to make. So, ask smart questions. Don't pre-order. Don't ever pre-order if you don't have to, unless you know the person, unless you have experience with them before. Then I'll pre-order all the time, right? Whether it's, all the people that you already know out there that have delivered constantly, not a problem. But if it's somebody brand new that you don't know, maybe they worked at a company before, they're going out on their own, or the company gets sold off and now it's new owners, whatever. Don't take the risk for those companies. They have enough money. Anybody can mortgage their house to make these products, but they don't. They want you to take the risk. All right, humans. Hopefully, that you learned something from that. You looked how to look at a business differently. It's business. When you start talking about larger scale things, and they get really muddy really, really quick, because you have so many spindles to handle in the machine, if you will. And if one of them is off, your deal can be completely gone. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I know this is not, like super interesting to talk about. I rarely talk about stuff about work or do something like this. I did a real quick chart here for you guys, just so you can see basically visually what happens. And, hopefully you can take that information towards the future. Thank you so much, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe. Listen, if you want to join the channel, it's down there. If you want to pick a subject, left, right, it's up there in the Kofi thing. Regardless, guys, make sure you get a good consultant before you enter into any business. Have it audited. Make sure you know the back of their teeth before you spend $1. All right, humans, thank you so much. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.